Hey, Chicago, what do you say? It's the CHGO Cubs podcast presented by DraftKings, America's top-rated sportsbook. Make sure you download the app and use the promo code CHGO when you sign up. 67 days until opening day. We're happy to be here with you on a Monday afternoon, 1:20. Cody Del Mendo, Ryan Herrera, Luke Stuckmeyer, as we head into another week. We're getting closer and closer to spring training. Ryan's packing his bags, ready to hit the sunshine, I'm sure. And we've got a lot to talk about.
We're all wearing the same hoodie. I just realized.
Are we all?
There it is.
We're all wearing the same hoodie.
Look at that.
It's a good one, though.
It is a good one. It's my favorite one.
You can get that at allchgo.com, by the way. And if you're a diehard, you get discounts on that. So make sure you get up. Plus, you get the card, you get discounts on all the tailgates, all the fun stuff we're going to do coming up this season. Lots to talk about today because Trey Mancini introduced to the media. We're going to have some sound bites from him, talk about his deal. We have Bob Nightingale suggesting that the Cubs and Sox potentially do a little business this offseason, which I thought was funny. And we say goodbye to a very big Cubs fan as well. So let's start with what our weekend was like. I know I saw Dabs was on here, the big Cowboys fan. Cody, how did your bets go? How did the football games go? I had no rooting interest in any of the four games, so I was kind of like,
well, I'd like to give a shout out to my king, Riley Patterson, who hit the backdoor cover for the Jaguars on Saturday. When I have kids one day, guys, I'm going to tell them about Riley Patterson's foot because, man, was Jags +9 just a beautiful, 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 beautiful winner. That was my favorite winner of the weekend. I did take the Bengals +5.5. Wish I had taken the money line because that was a blowout.
Yeah. Well, Cody, I was
go ahead.
Cody, I was friends with Riley Patterson's wife in college, so I can let her know that you say thank you for the backdoor.
Please send her a text, and then you can send me the screenshots. I would love to see because I also have a friend. So he's an Edwardsville native, and I have a friend who works at the bank. At one of the banks, I don't know how many banks are in Edwardsville, Illinois, but he works at a bank in Edwardsville. He saw my tweet. He texted me. And he was like, Cody, Riley Patterson uses our bank. I can tell you all the things that he spends his money on. And I was like, I'd love to know. So yeah, I would love to know more about Riley Patterson because he made my Saturday better than I thought it was gonna be. So yeah. Other than that, though, Illinois broke my heart on Friday. But I don't want to talk about that because I can't. I'm still hurt. So, but other than that, gambling weekend was okay.
Nice. I see Shane's winning big since December 1st. Hey, by the way, make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel so you don't miss any of these live if you're watching on YouTube or if you're hearing this podcast later on regular download. Make sure you subscribe on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you want. And most importantly, after you subscribe, give us the thumbs up, the likes, the 5-star reviews. We're looking for all those. Please. We appreciate it, Ryan, what'd you do all weekend? Anything fun?
Well, I mean, not really, but I was like Cody. I was betting. I was betting on the football games this weekend, and I sent Cody one. Oh man, a heartbreaker. It was a like a touchdown score parlay. It was I think it was
it's a stepped up same game parlay or whatever.
Yeah, whatever it is. Well, yeah, but it was like the one that yesterday was like Dalton Schultz score a touchdown, Christian McCaffrey to score a touchdown, Josh Allen to score a touchdown, and Jamar Chase to score 2 touchdowns. And Jamar Chase is the only one that didn't hit, and he had a touchdown overturned. That would have been like it was like $5 to win like 600 or something like that. I would have been rich. I would have been wealthy. And I got my heart broken instead. So
I was like missing out on $600 when you use a free bet, man. I feel you.
I was shocked by how easily the Bengals beat the Bills. Like of all the games, I thought the Bengals would win because I thought the Bills are just a little too banged up this season. Although they were my preseason favorite, I didn't think at this point they were going to get to the Super Bowl. But I was surprised that basically the Bengals offensive line just dominated them. It didn't even look like the two teams were that close, right? Of all the games, that was the one I was like, wow, I didn't see that coming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Joe Burrow, he's the guy I'm rooting for. I've been riding and dying with the Bengals ship all year. I've made so much money thanks to Joe Burrow. He's like 13-3 against the spread whenever it's when he's a 3-point underdog or more.
Yeah, I think Blue Dev says
like year and a half or something.
Blue Dev said anyone but Mahomes, but I'm pulling for my guy Patrick Mahomes.
No, I'm pulling for the Bengals, and in the NFC, I don't really care. Eagles or 49ers, they're both good stories. The Eagles would be interesting, and the 49ers to do it with their third string quarterback would be sort of shocking. The Cowboys thing, I don't know. This reeks of Jerry Jones blowing that sucker up now, right? And doing something crazy. So
we'll see.
Maybe Bears
he trades all those picks.
Yeah,
trade all those picks for the number 1 pick, right?
Yeah, or he trades multiple players in a pick or something. Like I can just see him. He'll do something bold because Jerry won't march out the same team. I don't think next year. All right. Trey Mancini, right? We got our first look at him on a Zoom meeting today. Marquis carried it. Ryan was on the Zoom asking question. 2 years, $14 million. I guess, Ryan, first of all, what was your first impression of Trey Mancini, the Cub?
I mean, first impression is he's a very well-spoken dude. Like, he understands the game. He's a veteran. He understands the game, and he understands. I think one of the big things that I, appreciated him talking about is understanding his role on the team. Not putting too much like oversized expectations on what he's going to do. He knows he needs to come in and be kind of a veteran presence. When he talked about not playing for Team Italy in the World Baseball Classic after all, because he's like, I'm coming to a new team. I got a bunch of new guys he said he'd never played with. Like no one on the team he's played with ever in his entire career. Like Michael Rucker was apparently on. He got selected in the Rule 5 draft by the Orioles. Was in spring ball 2020 with him for a few weeks, and then was returned back to the Cubs. But that's it. So he's not familiar with really anyone on the team. So he wanted to spend all of spring getting to know his teammates, getting to know the coaching staff, getting to know the organization, and hit the ground running that way versus leaving for a few weeks to go. I think Italy might start in Taiwan or something like that, and then go to Japan if they win. Like they're not going to be near Mesa during that time. So just knowing that he understands his role as a veteran leader on the team. He talked about David Ross saying he's going to matchups are basically going to where he plays on during each and every game is going to depend basically on matchups. And he's like, I told him I just like to play baseball wherever he wants me. I'm there. Just stuff like that is kind of he's no ego. He understands his role on the team and is willing to play whatever the Cubs want him to do. Right? They whatever role they want him on, he's willing to take that. So it struck me as just another guy a great clubhouse culture guy the Cubs are bringing in on first impression. And, we'll see how he really starts to mix with this group once, he gets down to Arizona, spring training starts and all that. But just off the bat, he seems like a guy who's genuinely excited to be in a Cubs uniform and ready to kind of take on that veteran leadership role for a bunch of the young guys that are still kind of, finding their footing here in the big leagues.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting. Oh, go ahead, Cody.
Sorry, Luke.
No, that's all right.
I was just going to say that a lot of like what the chat's saying, he just seems like a good clubhouse presence. He's already setting that tone to be, like one of those leaders, someone who's going to show the young guys how to go about playing the right way and all that jazz. And I do find it interesting that he admitted that, him and David Ross having a conversation about him playing basically anywhere that, like Ryan said, based off matchups. So it'll be interesting to see how they started off to begin the year, right? Because I we don't know how long Hosmer is going to last on this roster. If he plays well, he'll stay here, and if he doesn't, then he'll probably be cut, especially when Mervis comes up. So as far as that aspect of Mancini and where he's going to play, it's going to be interesting to see defensively at least where he'll play. I feel like he's going to be doing a lot of DHing, at least to start the year. But we'll see. But my impression of his the 20 minutes that Ryan and the rest of the Cubs media got to talk to him, he seems like someone who's excited to be here. He openly said that the Cubs were a location that he had been interested in all offseason. So yeah, I mean, it's exciting. And, for 2 years at $14 million, I'm not going to complain about it ever. And just hope that his mark is shown on this team sooner rather than later.
Yeah, I mean, for 2 years and 14 million, really, what can go wrong? How bad could things really go?
Yeah.
It's a very low risk, fairly high reward side to it, especially if he's like the comeback player of the year that he was in 2021. The graphic we just showed on YouTube, if you're listening to the podcast later, kind of outlines how much he's played at each position. More than 200, mostly he's been at first base, 237 games, but he's played over 200 at first base, over 200 in left field. DH is almost 200, and then right field's less than 191. So, you look at that graphic and you say, well, he's more comfortable in left. He's not going to play center. So he's a guy that would spell Ian Happ in left. He would DH, or he's going to be alternating with Mervis, or he'll be with Hosmer at first, or he'll be the DH. So it looks like it'll be a lot less filling in for Seiya Suzuki in right field. I'm okay with that. I love the versatility. I know we've had the conversation before, like when you have a guy that can do 4 or 5 different things, does that just mean he's not good enough to play one position? I don't know if that's the case in this situation. I just feel like you acquired him for the bat more than anything, and he's just giving you the flexibility to play several positions instead of like he's not good enough to play first, or he's not good enough to be your left fielder. And by the way, as much as we may not want to accept it, how he plays in left field and whether or not he hits for power could have an impact on whether or not Ian Happ is here for another year or beyond this. I kind of doubt it, but like, I think it's a backup plan if they do end up trading at the deadline and they end up not extending Ian Happ, that they have somebody that has played a lot of left field. Left field's a pretty easy spot to find somebody, but it's interesting that that's the second place that he's played the most of his time at. I don't know if I should read anything into the tea leaves there or not, but number 2 on the list, 204 games, is left field. I just think again, you acquired him for the bat, not for the fielding, and you can put him in those other positions. One thing that struck me, though, also was when you're talking about the leadership, that he has won a World Series. Now, he wasn't great for the Astros, but think of the guys that they have now acquired. They have a lot of World Series. Of course, we know they have Kyle Hendricks. Last guy to play on the World Series team for the Cubs is Kyle Hendricks. But they also acquired, so he won in 2016. You have Bellinger, who's won with the Dodgers. You have Mancini, who's won with the Astros. You have Hosmer, who won it with the Royals. And you have Swanson, who won it with the Braves. So not only have they added guys that are good in the clubhouse, they've added guys who have proven they can win at the highest level.
Yeah. I mean, I'm kind of with you when it comes to with Mancini and where he's going to be playing and stuff. I mean, in the whole thing with like Happ and the extension, I mean, they could trade Happ if Brennan Davis comes up and plays well. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like they have a lot of outfield depth coming up. So I think that's more of a reason that they wouldn't do it, more so than Mancini being able to take that guy's spot. So I think we'll see him a lot more as a DH or at first base more often than not. But on days that, they want to give Happ a rest, he can play left field, which, he's serviceable. He's done it before. And as we've seen, like, it's not super hard to play left field at Wrigley. I mean, Kyle Schwarber did it for a long time and he improved at it as he got older, So, I don't think that's much of a thing. It's not like when the Cubs signed Yan Gomes and everyone thought Contreras was on his way out. So,
No, yeah, I agree with that. By the way, Galvin pointed out that Yan Gomes national. So there's another veteran guy who's willing to do whatever, that's won a World Series and has been in that position. So we have sound from Mancini talking about why he chose the Cubs, because remember, this decision came after they'd already signed Eric Hosmer. So this was Trey Mancini talking about his decision to sign with the Cubs.
Yeah, the Cubs were a team the whole time that we thought would be a great fit for me. I have a lot of Midwest roots, and went to college nearby, and and the team too. It just seemed like a great fit, a team, where I could move around in the different positions I've played in my career, whether it be first, outfield, DH. I'm always down for any of them. Good to play wherever they want me. So, I thought the team would be a great fit. And with the moves that we've made this offseason, it's a really exciting team to play for moving forward.
So, he said he wasn't deterred by the whole Hosmer thing. It sounds like it's a pretty good fit. He's a guy that we always said was a good fit. It's just when the Hosmer thing happened, I think most people kind of wrote it off and thought, well, they have their veteran guy who can play some first base and DH. Right. But now they have two of those guys. And like you said, the Hosmer thing is such a small investment that it's easy to carry those two guys. It was just literally a matter of space on the roster of whether or not you wanted to do it. Right.
Yeah. And that's what I was saying earlier about, the question was asked to him, like, kind of how did the Cubs, I guess, pursuit of him still, like, how did that go even after the Hosmer deal? Because at that point, like you said, Luke, it felt like, they got their first base and their DH. And then, but then it comes out the Cubs are still interested in Mancini and then obviously sign him. I think that all goes back to just him being willing to move around the field and how, a guy that, he's only 30 years old. He's still kind of, relatively prime, still trying to, he kind of said he's still even to this day kind of working his way back from, missing that whole year, battling colon cancer. I mean, he's still, and comes off a World Series and signs with a team that's still kind of rebuilding at this point. But just to bring in that presence of, I'm going to do what this team asked me to do. I'm going to be that veteran presence for guys in the locker room. I'm going to split time with Eric Hosmer right now, however it's needed. If Matt Mervis is up, he'll do the same with him too. It's just like, that's just another example of how, the clubhouse presence, the will to just kind of do whatever this team needs to win. And, it's like guys like Nico, guys like Keegan, like all those guys talk about doing whatever, obviously wanting to start at a certain position and do that. Right. I'm sure Nico wanted to be a shortstop again. I'm sure Keegan Thompson wants to be a starter. I'm sure Trey Mancini would like to be starting, every day at one single position, whether that's first base or whatever. But the ability to kind of put your ego aside and say, I'm just going to do whatever my team tells me because that's, I want to win and that's what's going to help us win. I think that's just another prime example of why Trey Mancini will fit with this clubhouse and this culture so well.
Yeah, I mean, he does seem like a good fit. And I know, Ryan, you asked him about, kind of the plan, if the Cubs had laid out a plan for, he's a guy coming from a team that just won the World Series. And while he didn't play well in that postseason until the very end, he did point out that he was able to contribute at the end. And this was his answer. We may have Ryan's question on there too. Let's take a listen.
Coming from them, a team just won the World Series and is in contention every year, to a team like the Cubs that's kind of in a transition phase. What was the plan, I guess, laid out for you by Jed and the group as far as like how the Cubs can sort of get back to that level that, the Astros are at right now?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say that a plan was necessarily laid out, but I think with the signings that were made this offseason, that speaks volumes. I have never played with any of the other guys that were signed by the Cubs this offseason, but I've played against them, have such a high respect for all of them. I've been lucky enough to play against them all, and thrilled to be on their team now. So, I think that's a huge step and a huge message that, maybe this won't be a long process, and I think we can get things turned around really quickly.
We've talked about this, I believe, when we were even considering signing him, that the Cubs were considering signing him, was, the fact you mentioned it, Ryan, like he's been through colon cancer. He was the comeback player of the year. But another way that veteran players can lead is obviously through experience. So he's been on different teams. He wasn't a high draft pick. He was an 8th round draft pick out of Notre Dame. So he wasn't a top 3 pick in the draft or something where everybody expected big things out of him. He found his way to the major leagues. He got cancer. And, now he admitted that he reached out to Liam Hendriks of the White Sox to offer his advice there. So, it's a guy showing you that if he's willing to help another guy just on a human level on another team, certainly he's going to be sort of an open book for the young players coming up who certainly, let's say it's Matt Mervis. Let's say Mervis comes up a month into the season and he does well and then he struggles. Maybe he hits a stretch like Morel did, or he can have the same conversation with Morel, but like he can tell them about overcoming things, not just overcoming things on the baseball field, but having to overcome like fighting for your life. So I think he has a lot to offer to this team. I think he could really be a nice fit and a nice piece as long as the bat plays. And really, he was good last season other than when he got to the Astros, right? It was really his time in Houston that wasn't as good. He was good with the Orioles.
Yeah. I think, there's definitely reason for optimism on him bouncing back into, what we saw from the Orioles, at least. And I talk about this all the time, the AL East is, pitching and everything is just a little bit better than in the NL Central. Maybe that benefits him, in year one with the Cubs.
Yeah, they don't know him as well. I mean, like it's a little bit different, the whole with interleague play now, and the way the schedule is going to be this year will be totally different too. I think he said what was the only ballpark he said he had? San Francisco
Giants
ballpark he hasn't played
Giants
in,
and
right?
Dodgers. Yeah, Giants and Dodgers. He said that.
Yeah, something like that.
And then speaking of ballparks, he was asked by Tony Andracki about Wrigley Field. And this was my favorite part of the press conference. The former Cub that he brings up talking about Wrigley Field really takes you back to A, how young this guy is, and B, a fun moment in Cubs history. So this is that question.
Incredible. My first time at Wrigley was the summer of 2004, I believe. One of my best friends from growing up was a diehard Cubs fan, and we went up to a couple games that summer. I remember wearing a Matt Clement goatee to one of the games. They gave it to everybody in the stadium back then. So I have a picture of me with the big goatee on my chin. And the place was magical. And I remember that as a kid there. It's hard to replicate that feeling. Like when I was in the AL, I'd always say Fenway has a certain feel about it. And I'd say the same thing about Wrigley. I finally was able to get to play there this past June, I believe, was when it was. Just incredible. I mean, what a great place. And I'm so excited that it's my home park now.
So yes, Wrigley is still a draw. How good is that, huh?
Yeah.
Matt Clement. That's like 20 years ago type stuff, right?
Matt Clement, he was a favorite, man. Like that guy shoved in the few years he was here too. Like,
I gotta feel like if CHGO were around in 2004, we would have been the company handing out the goatees as people were going into the ballpark, right? Like, I get that. It feels like we were there before we were there, and Wrigley is magical. Ryan, you said that Tony Andracki tweeted out a photo of the picture.
Well, there on Marquee, there's because I guess they interviewed him on Marquee, and they had gotten the picture of him with the goatee. It's actually kind of funny. I just saw Bleacher Nation tweeted out a screenshot of it too. If you want to go on Twitter and look at that, but it's pretty funny. He looks like a little young kid sitting in Wrigley Field. But there it is.
Oh wow, here it is on YouTube. So we got it on our YouTube. If you're listening to the podcast, first of all, look how young he is. That's amazing.
Yeah,
that's 2004.
Yeah, wow. 19. Yeah, going on 19 years now. So. What is he? He was 11 years old at that point, ish, 10, 11.
Holy
so
cow. Just another reminder of how dirt old I am, man. Look at first of all that goatee they gave out, especially on him. It looks like it's somebody just took a Sharpie on the photo and drew it in.
Literally.
Yeah, literally. Seriously.
Mike Dove said he remembers that giveaway.
Yeah.
Let me tell you though, if you were there in 2004, depending on what part of the season he was in. You could see how he'd be having fun at Wrigley Field as an 11-year-old kid.
Yeah,
for sure.
Even if he wasn't a diehard Cubs fan at the time. So now he gets to live that out, and then I'm sure he had a little taste of Cubs baseball, at least being in South Bend with Notre Dame from 2011 to 2013. I'm not going to say, you hear a lot about it, but you're at least in the same vicinity that if the Cubs are playing well or whatever, you're still getting a little bit of that vibe in South Bend. Not like you're living in Chicago, but it's also not like being out on the East Coast or out in California or something. He's going to feel it a little bit. So
yeah.
Pretty cool stuff.
It's cool to have another like local type guy. I mean, they're easy to cheer for. You just hope that they perform, right? Like at the end of the day, that's what they're supposed to do. That's what the fans want them to do. But it's just like an added on, thing if they are kind of like a local guy. You know what I mean? So I hope that experience with him as a kid makes him feel a little bit more comfortable, to start his Cubs tenure. At least there'll be some familiarity, you know what I mean? So,
yeah, and having played at Notre Dame, he's relatively close to Chicago. I mean, I don't know, he didn't say it, but I'm sure he made a trip up to Chicago at some point while he was there, and then he probably got a lot of there's probably a lot of Cubs fans that are also Notre Dame fans. I know that's a very big divide in the Chicago area. Like you are either, for the most part, you either really like Notre Dame or you really hate Notre Dame.
Yeah.
But he probably has some fans. He probably has some fans that are also Cubs fans that'll be, willing to welcome him with open arms to Chicago.
He's also probably played a lot of games in the cold in college, right? Like he knows what to expect when it comes for end of March, April, even May here. Like you're going to get plenty of cold games, but you also get some sunny ones where you're going to want to have your Shady Rays on hand. Even if it's cold, you got to have the Shady Rays. You're supposed to get snow this week. Snow can be bright on the roads. You got to have the Shady Rays, the polarized, ready to roll.
Well, we did get snow. We did get snow over the weekend.
And more's coming this week, a couple times this week, apparently.
I wasn't happy about it, but we got it.
We did.
But so the sun's out a little bit right now. If I was driving down, the highway, getting out to our offices at the CHGO headquarters, I'd put my Shady Rays on right now. They never understood why sunglasses were so expensive, so Shady Rays set out to change it. You don't have to break the bank for quality sunglasses this fall because our friends at Shady Rays have you covered. Shady Rays are premium polarized shades featuring world-class optical clarity, substantial durability, and styles catered to everyone and every lifestyle. The best part about Shady Rays, they have the most insane protection program in all of eyewear, lost and broken replacements. If you lose or break your shades on day one, they told us they will send you a brand new pair, no questions asked. You drop them in the lake, off a cliff, anything, they'll replace them. Even with that strong of a protection program, they still managed to make quality that I can tell you, holding them in my hand or wearing on my head, seems just as good as any expensive pair that I have ever worn. Shady Rays customers seem to agree with over 200,000 5-star reviews. Shady Rays also provides 10 meals to fight hunger in America with every order placed and have donated over 20 million meals to date. They stand behind their product and told our team that if anyone has a problem, they throw profit out the window and do what it takes to get it right. You get free returns and exchanges. You either love the shades or Shady Rays will pay to ship them back. That's it. And exclusively for our listeners, Shady Rays is running their deepest deal of the season. Use code CHGO for 50% off 2 or more pairs at shadyrays.com. That's buy one, get one free. You can get 2 pairs for as low as $54. Redeem that code CHGO for 50% off only at shadyrays.com, where you can find all their newest and best shades.
I love Greg's going to sleep in the chat says Cody looks like the Macho Man. Not the Macho Man. Macho Man. Ooh, yeah. Step into a Slim Jim. All right, our next partner has a product I use literally every day. Started taking AG1 because I didn't have time, wanted better gut health, more energy, and an optimized immune system. Now I've been on it for 2 weeks, and I love it. 2 weeks became 2 months. 2 months became almost a year. And now we're what, like 10 months, 11 months?
Coming up, man.
Another month.
Yeah. I mean, we're almost up to a year.
Month and a half.
Look at the transformation, folks. Look at the transformation. I look 5 years younger.
Yes, he looks incredible.
It's not it's
all because of AG1.
Not bad tasting. Instead, it's got a mild tropical taste. I love it. I take it first thing in the morning. Here's what this stuff is. 1 scoop of AG1, you're absorbing 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, whole food source superfoods, probiotics, and adaptogens to start your day right. Special blend of ingredients supporting your gut health, your nervous system, your immune system, your energy, recovery, focus, aging, all those things. I get that boost of energy, so I go empty stomach in the morning and giddy up. Lifestyle friendly too, whether you're keto, paleo, vegan, gluten-free, or dairy-free, you're all good with AG1, investing in all-in-one nutritional insurance for less than $3 a day and recommended by professional athletes. More than 7,000 five-star reviews. Right now, reclaim your health, arm your immune system with convenient daily nutrition, just one scoop in a cup of water every day. That's it. You don't need a million different pills to take care of your health. You don't need a bunch of supplements either. To make it easy, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/CHGO Cubs. Again, athleticgreens.com/CHGO Cubs to take ownership over your health, to pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance.
Ooh, yeah. Dubs has a new one. He says Cody Del Macho.
You got to do the cream of the crop video, Luke. The cream of the crop. Cream
Elizabeth. Macho Man was a classic.
Oh, yeah.
He's I believe he's in the Chicago Italian Sports Hall of Fame, which I think they moved it over to about 15 years ago. It's a pretty fun little museum to go around. It used to be out in Arlington Heights, right at the exit at Arlington Heights Road. It used to be right there of 90 and Arlington Heights Road, right at the corner. And they moved it 15, it might even be 20 years ago now, to downtown Chicago. Jerry Colangelo was a big part of it. Anyways, they have a Macho Man. They have his outfit, the glasses, the whole thing there. Chicago guy. Anyways, did you guys see that Mark Leiter Jr. Said thanks, but no thanks? I thought he might just come back and take his outright assignment to AAA, but he's decided to go free agency route instead.
I'm surprised by it, basically, because from the outside looking in, it's become very known around the league that the Cubs are really helping relievers become better. I mean, they've helped so many guys who no one had ever heard of get paid, like Ryan Tepera, Andrew Chafin.
Chris Martin got paid.
Chris Martin got paid. David Robertson, right? $10 million from whoever the hell he went to, the Mets, that's Steve Cohen, but whatever. Either way, they've helped guys get paid. And the fact that, maybe it's just the fact that he's going to AAA and maybe he feels like he's going to be fighting for a major league spot, and maybe he feels like he deserves a major league spot, which, I thought out of the bullpen he was good. Kind of hoping that he doesn't find a better spot and maybe comes back to the Cubs somehow, some way anyway, but hey, whatever. What was your favorite part of all the Mark Leiter Jr. slander in the chat over the last 10 months, guys?
I disagree. I'm not. Well, I was surprised when they DFA'd him. I'm not surprised that he elected free agency. I think he's not going to be your high price lockdown reliever, but he carved out a nice little role for himself on the Cubs as a guy that can come in and specific matchups. I mean, he has some good stuff. He's not overpowering or anything, but he can get guys out. He was a lot better in the bullpen for the Cubs than he was as a starter. That's very, very clear, stats wise, eye test wise. He did a lot better in the bullpen. So it didn't surprise me to see him elect free agency because the performance he put on last year should get him a major league look, no matter who it is. And at this point, with the Cubs DFAing him and kind of reshaping the bullpen, having all these guys that could potentially be, multi-inning guys out of the bullpen, and they're still in the reliever market and for agency. It didn't seem it was going to have to take injuries and stuff for him to get called back up to the Cubs. And at this point in his career, he's looking for a place that's going to give him a shot in the major leagues. And I think he enjoyed his time in Chicago. The pitching infrastructure certainly helped, but he's looking for a major league spot, and the Cubs just wasn't going to be the organization that was going to give him that, off the bat this season.
See, if what Ryan is saying is correct, and I agree with him, that's probably why he thought he'd have a better opportunity somewhere else as opposed to just being bitter about the Cubs. If what Ryan is saying is correct, that really shows you something about the way the pitching is developing in this system, right? that a guy like Mark Leiter says, if I want to get to the majors, if I want to get my opportunity, if I want to get back to the big leagues, I've got to go to another team that doesn't have this depth at pitching, right? So it's a sign of a guy that was here telling us indirectly good things are coming. In fact, good things that are ahead of me, like guys that are ahead of me in the pecking order are coming, and there's more behind them, and there's more behind them. It certainly isn't that he doesn't have confidence in himself. It looks like he's just being realistic with himself and saying, dude, if you want to get back to the big leagues, you need to try and sign on with the Reds or somebody else, a team like the Cubs 3 years ago. But the Cubs aren't in the spot that they were 3 years ago. They've improved their pitching. They've improved their depth at all areas, but specifically, like Cody said, the bullpen. And they've been able to do it. And so he didn't see that opportunity. I think that is why he didn't come back. By the way, did you see Carter Hawkins saying, I didn't know this story, that Macho Man played minor league ball for the Reds and Cardinals, taught himself to throw left-handed after messing up his right arm, his right shoulder. Now that's an athlete.
That's an athlete.
Carter
the
Hawkins,
real Carter Hawkins, for sure.
That's right. And
great baseball mind in our YouTube chat right now.
That's right. And I haven't seen versatility like that since I played Cody left-handed in ping pong the one time. And then now I went to right-handed. But he did beat me the last time. I will admit, he did beat me.
I saw it.
I choked. I put 4 or 5 serves into the net. It was just a disaster.
I mean, then Cody beat me like twice in the NFL Blitz. Like he just had the best week of his life in the office. I don't know if he can carry it on. I guess we'll see what happens this week. But he had himself a hell of a week in the office last week. I'll tell you that.
I would like to credit all the AG1 I have been taking over the last few weeks. I also feel like I played very loose because I was having lots of Goose Island. And when you play loose, you play well.
Official beer,
and if you feel good, you feel good, you play good. And I felt pretty good. So I would like to credit all of those things to my success at the games that are in the CHGO office.
Yes, see, Matthew Greger's right. Cody Del Gut Health is his new name. Because
that's a good one.
Since January, he's been putting that baseline morning AG1 in his body, to get the gut health right. And then he loosens up. And when he starts to tighten up a little in the afternoon, he's getting a little stiff. Then he throws a little, Goose Island 3-1-2 down, and it takes a little bit of the edge off at work, and he feels a little bit better. And all of a sudden, he's like Forrest Gump on the ping pong table. It's just one after another, one after another. Anyways,
Galvin also said that I watched that dude on TikTok on how to move correctly. And if you remember that video of the dude who was talking about Correa and his movements or whatever.
Yeah.
And I tweeted the video out just to make myself feel better about the Cubs missing out on Correa. And then everyone took it as I actually believed it or whatever. And I don't know. I know nothing about if your movements are right or not, for these players or whatever. Again, I tweeted it because I thought it was funny and I thought that it made me feel better. So I wanted to help other people feel better. This guy, Galvin, sent me one that he did that the same guy did for Dansby Swanson over the weekend. And this movements guy thinks what Dansby Swanson is doing is incredible. That he's bound to stay healthy for a much longer time than Carlos Correa. So that also made me feel better about missing out on Correa. So,
sounds like it has jinx potential in that one. So better knock on wood or something.
Did you see Drew Smiley said he believes the Cubs got the best shortstop? Now I know it's his teammate, but he doesn't have to say that, right?
Well, he's also a guy that's familiar. He played with Dansby in 2021. He was part of that World Series team too. So he's familiar with Dansby Swanson and what he brings in that clubhouse, on the field, the improvements he's made over the last few seasons. So, like you said, that's his teammate. He's going to hype him up, of course, but it's also it's not like taking it with a grain of salt because he is someone that has seen Dansby Swanson play in the past and seen what he brings to a team in the past. So, a little more stock into what Drew Smiley says, just having been a part of a clubhouse with Dansby Swanson, as at a time when he's coming into his own as a player too.
Also, we want to bring up the fact that Cody's mentor, Bob Nightingale, this week and put something out on Twitter that had people a little buzz going, Speaking of buzzes, Bob Nightingale mentions that, Nick Madrigal still might have it and the White Sox need a second baseman and they might be able to get him back from the Cubs. It's as if Bob were listening to this podcast of all the times that I've said, White Sox, I've got some moves for you. How about we're
ahead of the game.
I'm the one that says, listen, we need to get Rick Hahn on the phone, not to give away Nick Madrigal, but Madrigal and Wisdom for Moncada is a deal I'd at least listen to because, and I saw somebody on the South Side actually accepting this on Twitter because they said, listen, if our third baseman's going to hit 200, he might as well hit 30 home runs for us. It's exactly right. I'm giving you your third base replacement and I'm giving you your second baseman. In fact, you might have to throw in Crochet. You might have to throw Moncada and Crochet in the mix. And the Cubs could take back, Cubs would send Wisdom and Madrigal, and they would get back Crochet and Moncada. Sounds like a deal nobody can resist.
You know what's funny about this, like the discourse about this? This trade talk over the last 24 hours in my mentions on Twitter and even on TikTok is that both Cubs and White Sox fans are both saying, no, this guy stinks. This guy's a bum. All of them. Like, they're like, no one is like, there's no fair. Like, yeah, it's not fair. Like it's just like butting heads. Like you're not getting anything out of it. To me, like I'm with you, Luke. Like I think Madrigal and Wisdom from Moncada is a very fair trade when you look at the money and stuff. Like Moncada was awful last year. Like he was just bad. And
but he still has the high upside, right? Like
he does have high upside.
No, I just think they're in a position to take that roll of the dice at third base because you could always put Morel there if he totally fails three-quarters of the season.
Right, and so you got to remember that Madrigal just has no value whatsoever. So if you can get a guy with that kind of upside, I feel like that's awesome. Like you run with that. And Wisdom, like I've talked about with Sean and Herb this so much about how the White Sox, like their leading home run hitter last year was Andrew Vaughn with like 17.
They could have had Wisdom.
Patrick Wisdom did more than that, well more than that. So like
part-time he did.
And he's cheap. So you're giving him a guy, he strikes out a lot, whatever, but that's what like all power hitters do. You're giving them that potential. Not even potential. He's done the last 2 years, 20 plus homers the last 2 years, and you're giving Madrigal, a guy who's familiar with your team, your organization to begin with, and a guy who can play second base. And we can sit here and talk about Madrigal and his all the bad with him or whatever all you want, but he's still better than what the White Sox got at second base right now. And then Moncada, like again, it is a big like in a way it is kind of a risk because he was bad last year, and even though he was a 4-WAR player in 2021. His power significantly dropped compared to like his best year in 2019. So there's definitely some give and take there. But I realistically don't think that trade would actually be something discussed. I think that
I don't either. I'm joking half the time. Like I'm not. Do I think that Rick Hahn's going to take that deal? Doug is on here on the chat saying, Luke,
he's definitely not.
Why not just trade those two guys for Trout and Ohtani? Same likelihood.
I'm just saying the thought process, okay? It actually isn't like the most mind-blowingly like awful trade idea. I think if that were to actually happen, the Cubs would probably have to send another piece because Wisdom's 30, 31, whatever. But
listen, all I'm saying is as opposed to there's no Angels fan that is saying, yes, I'd like Madrigal and Wisdom for Ohtani and Trout. I know there are White Sox fans that are actually accepting this trade offer. Like I've talked to them. I've spoken to them in person. White Sox fans are like, I'll do it. I've seen them on Twitter saying like, you know what? Not a bad deal. I think we should do it. So it's not, do I think it's going to happen? No. Do I think there's any chance? 0.00001, but it's not as crazy as Ohtani and Trout. Like, come on.
I think that it's more likely if the White Sox and Cubs talk trade for Madrigal, I think it's more likely the Cubs probably get like a reliever that's probably in like AAA that's like has high upside, something like that, because like there's not a lot of value with Madrigal. But I also think at the same time though, if the Cubs and White Sox are going to talk trade, this is the perfect time to buy low on someone on their core that's underperformed. Right. So if we're not talking about Madrigal, I don't know who else they'd be interested in, but I'm just saying, like, I don't think it's such a bad idea to try and trade for someone like Yoan Moncada. Like, yeah, he hasn't been good, but we've seen him be good. He was a top prospect in the Red Sox organization that was part of the Chris Sale trade. He like clearly was good at one time. What happened? Like, you got to figure out what happened and then, fix it. And he's young. It's not like he's 35. You know what I mean? Like,
this is why I refrain from. This is why I refrain from speculating on trades. I have no idea what the Sox are interested in and what they'd want and what they'd be willing to give up for a guy like Madrigal. It's a lot of speculation that I honestly just don't care to get into. But I mean, what Cody said is, if you wanted to go after a guy like Moncada, that wouldn't be a bad thing because he has had success at the big league level, as bad as he was last year. Like, that is a position of need. He's a guy that's had some success. Like, that wouldn't be a bad route to try to go out.
It was a 5-war guy a couple years ago.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's just not yes, okay. If the Cubs should have interest in a guy like that, but I don't know what it would take for the White Sox to give up on him. It definitely wouldn't be a Moncada for Madrigal straight up trade. And you don't know. No one has any idea what else it would take to get a guy like Moncada for if you're including Madrigal in that deal. So yeah, I don't. Just throwing out crazy trade scenarios, it doesn't do it for me. But that's why like
Moncada is worse than Milton Bradley. Are you kidding me, Barbara? Come on.
Barbara really took a shot at
yikes
Moncada in the chat. I'm not even going to repeat it, but Matthew Gregory says Cody Del Trado is coming up with these deals. No, like
Barbara.
I threw out the crazy trade. I'm not saying it's even.
I'll leave that for you guys.
That's right. Ryan leaves it for us, and he just has to sit and listen to it sometimes because he knows who he's sitting with. He's sitting with crazy people, but that's all right. We'll be the crazy people. We're here.
If we're going to get ourselves up for Cody Bellinger, a guy who had like 160 last season, then don't tell me that Yoan Moncada is a bad baseball player. Like, come on.
Well, he's fallen on tough times. By the way, not to turn this into a Sox podcast, but just today, this afternoon, Eloy said, DH? No way. I plan on playing the outfield way more than DH. And he said he's not going to accept just being a DH. So if they were going to make that trade at some point this year,
good luck.
Way less likely.
They want to send him back. I'd take him.
Cease was the key.
The DH. The DH him.
He doesn't want to
force
DH.
Him. Force him. I don't know. Yeah, I know.
Force him.
I don't want him unless you force him to play DH, man. Like, listen. The guy can hit. When the guy's healthy, he can hit, and he makes me hate that trade even more. I mean, that used to be the thing that everyone talked about with that trade was that Eloy's going to hit 40 home runs a year for the White Sox for the next.
No, he won't because he won't be able to stay healthy if he plays in the
field. I know. That's what I'm saying. Like now it's completely switched where everyone's talking about how Cease is a Cy Young candidate every single year, and it's like, all right, well, when are you going to get both of them to be good at the same time? Like, it's wild to me. I feel like the organization has to they have to sit him down and be like, hey, man, like we need you to do this. Like, we need you on the field.
Yeah. Barbara's firing the zingers out there today. Eloy makes Schwarber look like Roberto Clemente in the outfield. Listen, Eloy's a nice player.
Madrigal for Eloy.
He seems like a really nice guy. Now that I would be willing to do just for the home run production for sure.
Bubble wrap wherever he plays.
Remember, for the record, Cody is the one that suggested that trade, not me. ComEd facility. Before the craziness gets out of hand, the ComEd Energy Efficiency Program is committed to helping families and businesses in the communities we serve save money and energy. ComEd offers free facility assessments that can help find energy-saving opportunities, whether it's lighting, HVAC systems, commercial kitchen equipment, or industrial processes. An authorized engineer will work with you to develop a detailed assessment plan specific to your goals and needs. They can be done in person or virtually and last approximately 2 hours. Within 3 to 4 weeks, customers will receive a report detailing energy efficiency projects that they can start working on right away. Each recommendation will include an estimated energy savings, cost savings, project cost, potential incentives, and simple payback. So don't wait. Get started saving money and energy today. For energy saving tips and to schedule your free facility assessment, go to ComEd.com/poweringbiz. If you're ready to sign up for the facility assessment, call them. You can also call them at 1-855-433-2700. Again, 855-433-2700. During normal business hours to speak with a ComEd Energy Efficiency Program representative, you can email businessee@comed.com or request an assessment online at their website, comed.com/facility assessment.
Guys, we were talking about it earlier, a little NFL to start the show because, the playoffs are happening.
Yeah.
So we got 4 NFL teams left, 2 conference championship games.
There you go.
And only, thank you. I can't talk sometimes. It's not good for a podcast. And only a few more shots to win big on the playoffs with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. Counting down to Super Bowl 57, new customers can bet just $5 to get $200 in free bets instantly. Not a new customer. You can feel the conference championship thrills with stepped-up same-game parlays. Take your shot at an even bigger NFL payout and boost your winnings with each leg you add up to 100%. For instance, I have already slammed the Bengals. I took Bengals money line literally when I was laying in bed last night at plus 100. I woke up this morning. It's at minus 105. Money coming in on the Bengals. They're probably waiting. Some people might be waiting to hear about Patrick Mahomes and his ankle. So, maybe you want to wait it out. Maybe that spread jumps up a little bit in the Chiefs' favor whenever it's, said that Patrick Mahomes is definitely going to play. I think he's going to play anyway. That's why I already bet it. But that's just my 2 cents on that. Anyway, you can make that bet. You can bet on the Eagles to cover the 2.5 or the Giants, the 49ers to cover the 2.5 as well. It's exciting. I can't wait. Download DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code CHGO. New customers can bet $5 on the conference championships and get $200 in free bets instantly. Only at DraftKings Sportsbook with code CHGO. Minimum age and eligibility restrictions apply. See show notes for details in the podcast and YouTube description. That said, I'm taking Kansas money line tonight at Baylor. I like the Bulls money line too.
As far as the football stuff goes, this last weekend for me was the best weekend you have for pro football, right? The second week, that first divisional round. Then the AFC and NFC championship are probably – I like all of them better than the Super Bowl. Like the Super Bowl is great if the game is good, but very rarely do you get all the games are bad on an entire weekend.
The Super Bowl is great if you have a Super Bowl party. Like if you have friends around.
Yeah, or a team in it.
Yeah, or a team in it, which we're Bears fans, so
Yeah.
If you have people around and like 10 different dips, then you're gonna have yourself a day. So that's on that. And if you like the commercials, but I mainly get excited for the Super Bowl for the food, and that's really about it.
Did you see Mike Dubs is already thinking a month and 2 days until you can start betting on Cubs spring training baseball on DraftKings? So
it's coming up. Cubs hit parlays are on its way back. Can't wait.
I would think betting on spring training is tough just because you don't know how long guys are in a game, right? Like you have to wait. You're wagering on like prospects that are way down the list and you don't know which ones are coming in the game. That seems a little tricky to me. Sad news over the weekend, by the way, as we get closer to the end of the show, Lin Brehmer, longtime XRT radio host, huge Cubs fan, passed away at 68. He had been dealing with cancer. He'd been off the air. Then he came back for a little while. I didn't know Lin personally. We exchanged stuff, through Twitter back and forth. You'd see him at events. I didn't know him really well, but he's another one of those guys that nobody has a bad word to say about, and if you meet anybody that has met Lin, they all say, great guy. Oh, loved him. He did this for me back in 2007. He did this for me in the year 2000. He did this for me in 98. A huge fan of music, obviously, in Chicago. I've read he was a big pizza guy. Jay Zawoski and Herb were saying that they had pizza with him recently. And I know he will be missed in not necessarily just Cubs Twitter, but as Cubs fans, seen him at the ballpark. He was a diehard. The Cubs put out on their Twitter, they mourn the passing of the legendary radio personality Lin Brehmer, and condolences to his family and friends. They put his name on the marquee. 68 years old, prostate cancer. That's way too young. So once again, make sure you're going to the doctor and getting your yearly physical and getting checked up on all those things.
So, as you guys know, I'm not like from here. So like,
right.
Like I like knew who he was, but I never got to meet him. I didn't listen to that radio station growing up or anything like that. He doesn't. Yeah, he doesn't have an impact on me like a lot of Chicagoans do. But I do know that he was a gigantic Cubs fan, and just sucks to see that happen to him. But thoughts and prayers to his family and all that. But all I can say is that I hope one day, whenever my time has come, that I am so big with Cubs fandom that they put my name on the damn marquee. If that day does in fact come, because that's a pretty big deal. If when you pass, they're putting your name, like putting the date and everything on the marquee. So
you've made an impact. You made an impact.
Yeah, you've made an impact.
When your name hits the marquee.
That would I wouldn't be here to see it, obviously, if that were to happen for me. But I think that's a pretty cool honor for him. Just from my standpoint, not really knowing the guy or listening to the guy really growing up. But yeah, he was an icon on the radio waves here in the city. So that's a pretty big deal. So it's good on the Cubs to do that, and he clearly made a gigantic impact just on Chicagoans. So.
Yeah, I mean, I'm in the same boat. I didn't really know who he was myself growing up. Like Cody, knew he was a big Cubs fan, but wasn't just completely aware of who he was. But seeing the tribute and the outpouring of love support on Twitter, all the articles that were written about him, people talking about him on the radio, on TV, it was just kind of opens your eyes of how big of an impact he did have on the city and the people in the media, or the people that are just Cubs fans, or people that listen to him, or any of that stuff. Thoughts and prayers, and you can only hope that you kind of make that. I only hope I can kind of make that positive of an impact on as many people as he appeared to have made an impact on, in my life. And because to do what he did, and he had to do something right, to get the kind of outpouring of love and support and passion and thoughts and prayers that he got. So, thoughts and prayers, rest in peace. I wish I had gotten a chance to meet him, or I just was more aware of who he was growing up. That I wish I could have done that. You can't change the past though, but it was really awesome to see the articles and just everyone talking about him and on Twitter and all that, because that just kind of puts in perspective of how much of an impact you can have on people without really even knowing it. Maybe is probably the best way to say it. Like you be a good person, you do the right things, you treat people the right way, and when your time comes, like you see the how much of an impact you have on people, even if you didn't know it.
Yeah, I mean, well, you see it. Like, you guys knew his name was associated with Cubs baseball, even though he never worked for the Cubs, never really covered the Cubs, but he was a part. He was an arm that came out on the Cubs. He was big on. He was so big to the live music scene for me growing up, just in the area. All the XRT concerts, they would bring local talent, and whether it was the Smashing Pumpkins or the Freddie Jones Band or whoever you might want to say back in the day, local bands trying to get on XRT. XRT was the place that was constantly pushing live music at concerts, right? And he was a big part of that. And then he would filter into the Cubs fan stuff, and was absolutely a rabid Cubs fan. Am I wrong about that, Kevin? Like diehard Cubs fan. And again, if you're nice, like Ryan said, if you're nice to everybody, even the people who are too young to really have experienced what you did professionally, they may say something nice about you, and you might end up on the marquee. Like, I know there's a huge loss for a lot of Cubs fans with Lin Brehmer.
Yeah, certainly. I appreciate you guys letting me hop in real quick. Just as a radio guy and a guy who loves radio and grew up in the radio industry, and I'm now, at WGN and everything. I didn't know him personally, but we met a couple of times on the softball field. He was obviously the manager for Odyssey the last couple of years, and I have a lot of great friends over there on that team. And the dude you would hear him yelling his pregame speeches, trying to get his team fired up. I mean, he just was so passionate about radio. He was so passionate about music. And every story, like you guys had already touched on, I mean, he was just a wonderful person. And radio is such a unique industry in which you get to really connect with people over an interesting, part of their lives they're driving. It's a very intimate relationship, and he really covered that, and he's a huge inspiration to me. And, obviously just the passion he had for all of his friends, and no matter what age you were in this industry, somebody like me being really young and getting into it, he was always supportive of all those guys. And I just want to send my thoughts and prayers to all of our friends up the dial there. We're thinking about you guys. I know it's a very hard loss. So thanks for letting me say that. I appreciate it, guys.
Sure.
Yep.
So again, condolences. Oh, go ahead, Cody.
I was just going to say that Jay Zawoski shared this on, he might share this on Twitter too, but he shared it on his Facebook. Apparently, and I didn't realize this, but you guys know the show The Bear on FX? It's the Chicago TV series. The guy that's from Shameless is in
Hulu, right? It's on Hulu.
Yeah, it's on Hulu too. So I guess the opening scene of that show, it's him talking, like he's doing like the opening part of that show. I don't know the technical term for how to explain that, but anyway, Jay Zawoski shared that yesterday, and the guy he was so Chicago that it was, you could really tell how much of how he was beloved here if he got the opportunity to do that, and also just the impact he made on the radio. So it's on YouTube. Go find it. I recommend it. Also,
I'm going to check that out because I haven't watched that show yet, but he was so Chicago that they had to write him into a Chicago show, right? Like,
yes, exactly.
That's how synonymous his name was with Chicago, and really at times with the Chicago Cubs. So thoughts and prayers to his family, and rest in peace, Lin Brehmer. We have some exciting stuff still coming on the podcast. We got more interviews coming this week from our sit downs at Cubs Convention. Corey Friedman's going to try and join us in studio on Tuesday. So we will see you guys at 1:20. Thanks to everybody in the chat who joined us. It was fun to hear from Trey Mancini, kind of knock around some ridiculous trade ideas that were thrown out in the public. We realize they're ridiculous, and we accept that. Thanks for listening to the CHGO Cubs podcast presented by DraftKings, America's top-rated sportsbook. Make sure you download the app and use the promo code CHGO when you sign up. We'll see you on Tuesday to talk more Cubs right here. Fly the W.